Hello. Hi there, everybody. So nice to see you here today. I have my new friend Trevster here. Trevster lives about 3 hours south of Barcelona, one of my all-time favorite towns to visit. And he is a fabulous knitter, and I think you're going to really enjoy getting to meet him today and learning what he has to say. So, again, I'm not going to I think I'm going to stop welcoming everybody each time. Um, but I want to tell you, I do know you're here. I see your names, and I really, really appreciate your joining me every week. I love it. It makes me happy. And I hope that this makes you happy too. So we'll just get started. So this is Trevster. And Trevster participates a lot on Ravelry. He just told me he really doesn't get on Facebook, which is kind of nice. Ravelry is such a large community, and I love Ravelry myself, getting on there. And so he has quite a presence on there. So that's where he's coming from. So Trevster, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Okay, well, I was just starting with my kind of story, starting knitting in childhood really at about 15. And I started with a cardigan pattern, some library books, and some black mohair, which perhaps wasn't the easiest place to start, but it worked for me. And I think I'd always seen my elder sisters and my mum knitting, so I knew the movements and I sort of knew how it worked.
Okay, we have to stop. I'm having a technical glitch. I'm sorry, Trevster, but I'm
Okay.
not getting sound. Oh no, now it says the sound's okay. Never mind, keep going. There's a lag between when I see their comments and when what's happening with you. So I think we're fine. Everybody can hear. Okay,
Are we on now?
sorry. Yes.
So, and I found it, I think I love doing things with my hands, and I really find it very, um, I think doing something creative, something with your hands, something that's constructive is really, really healthy. And I think I felt that when I started. And I don't think I made very many things. I think I made a red jumper, a black cardigan, a white cable jumper, traditional style, a cotton jumper that I didn't like very much. And I think at that time I tried something from Cape Facet as well, but not from a pattern. I think
So
I
you
didn't
jumped
find.
right in.
I do jump right in, but I think that's the thing. If you don't understand something, read the instructions and just follow. And by doing that, I find always by following the instructions, I suddenly realize I see how it works now. And I think I've followed through with that kind of approach right up to now. Um, but I only knitted, I think, for about 4 years. I think I must have stopped in about 1984, 1985. And I didn't take it up again until 2014. And what I wanted was for myself to buy a traditional ecru Aran jumper. And I couldn't find one. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go and see if I can find a proper hand knitted one on a website in Ireland. I'm sure I can find something. And I was looking at the prices, 500 euros, 700 euros, 1,000 euros. And I thought, well, I'm sure that's worth it because I know the work that's gone into it, but I think I can do that. So I bought a kit and I built myself an Aran jumper. And part of it didn't fit very well. I found a couple of mistakes in the pattern, which is a bit presumptuous for my first thing in 30 years. What actually happened was one of the raglans was wrong.
Uh-huh.
So I made the first one and it was wrong. I thought that's wrong. It's too tight. It's too narrow at the top. And I checked the pattern and thought I haven't done anything wrong, but I'm going to do the other one properly. So I did the other one as I thought it should be. So I ended up with one really narrow shoulder and one good shoulder. I forced myself to wear it a few times and then I frogged it and kept the yarn because the yarn's very nice. But I haven't used that yarn again. It's still waiting for me. The second thing I tried again from 2014. I really like knitting traditions, and I lived in Scotland for more than 10 years, and I'm very fond of Ireland. And I love these proper deep traditions like Fair Isle, Aran. And I thought something that I'd always wanted would be an Icelandic sweater, a yoke sweater. So I sent off to Iceland for a box of Plotolopi, which is the unspun roving.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know what it was. Suzanne, I didn't know what it was. And it arrived in Wales in a box with a pattern book, which was actually written for neckline, which is 2 or 3 times the gauge.
Right.
And I started off. I'm actually going to show you something funny now. I don't mind a knitting humiliation. I made a plotalopi sweater to a neckline pattern. So I ended up with this rather big amorphous thing, which was a proper Radari sweater, but just not something that would fit anybody. And I thought, Trevor, what have you got to lose? So I thought, I'm going to put it in the washing machine.
Uh-oh. Oh, cute! How cute is that?
A kind of little felted, buttonholes Radari sweater. It could be cut up for slippers, I think.
It's very nice. You know, it's a teddy bear sweater. It's a teddy bear sweater.
It is, but it's about half an inch thick.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's what happened with that one.
I've had that happen too. Oh my goodness. There's no going back once it happens. There's no fixing it.
I have nothing to lose, so it was the washing machine. Yeah. And anyway, about that time, I thought I need to learn more about this, and I had a vague idea in the back of my head about gauge and about yarn differences and things like that. So I was looking online, and I think I had, at that time, 2014, 2015, I had some really useful coincidences. I discovered TechKnitter's blog one weekend, one Saturday, and I just read it from end to end alphabetically and just thought, these are all of the things that make your knitting look good. And I can see a use for that, and I can see a use for that, and what can I do? And at the same time, I was trying to understand a different sweater pattern, and it was a top-down, which I'm not great with top-down. I don't really like top-down now. But I was trying to understand it, and looking at that, I happened upon Schoolhouse Press and Elizabeth Zimmerman, and I bought myself a PDF pamphlet, a few dollars. And it was 4 pages, and it explained Elizabeth's percentage system with something like, I think it was a yoke sweater, a raglan sweater, a shirt style saddle shawl. Elizabeth Zimmerman shirt style saddle shoulder sweater. I need to practice my diction like Julie Andrews because it's not coming out correctly. But there are 4 patterns in it. It's a pamphlet of 4 pages, and I learned so much. And I thought, I don't need patterns. I don't need to be adapting patterns for different yarns, for my fit, for doing the recalculations. And I thought, with this system and a few measurements, I could start to make things for myself. And with those few resources, really started me off on this whole path of designing for myself and thinking that was actually a really fascinating part of the process, because you can see something that's attractive in a pattern and you buy the pattern and you make the thing. I thought I really like to use my own imagination and see if I can get them myself. And I always say Elizabeth Zimmerman set me free, because she really, really did. Amazing body of work.
She gives you permission. She gives you permission.
Completely, she puts you in charge.
Yes.
And she says, find a fabric that you like and make something that you want out.
One of my favorite things, all-time favorite things that she said, because her patterns are written, people say they're pithy, P-I-T-H-Y, And one of them, she's describing how to knit the turtleneck, and she says, work in knit one, purl one ribbing until you're sick of it, and then bind it off. That's the truth. You do it till you can't stand to do it anymore, and you bind it off,
Yeah, well, I mean, quite often, she really does make me look at it with a different perspective, because now I think I've got my yarn, I've got my colours, I know I'm going to do colour work, or I'm going to do cables or whatever. And I think I knit the body first. So I use my body measurement and I start knitting that whilst I'm thinking about what I'm going to do up here. And I haven't got a plan. And I think I've got 20 hours of knitting in front of me, and I'll decide what to do with this. So I don't necessarily start with a complete plan, but it's not improvisation, because when I have the idea, I calculate it and make sure, well, hopefully, that it's going to work. All of my things feel like prototypes, really, because I always want to make a second one and never do. But I'm going to show you something. this, I don't know, don't know whether I have any Ravelry friends on watching, but this is my
Wow.
Ravatar sweater.
Wow. Yeah, the one you wear in your Ravatar. That's
Exactly.
stunning.
Well, it was also my first bit of color work, and it's completely improvised. When I finished one motif, I did the next one up, and then the next one up. And when I got to the split for the armhole, um, I did the same. I added a little bit onto the end of the sleeve so it would work, but then just basically repeated the same pattern.
Hmm.
So, and
That's stunning.
well, it was the patterns are improvised, and I had so much fun doing it, and I still love it. And I think I'd like to
I
make
love the
another.
rolled over neck. I like that neck. It's very
This,
pretty.
this, to be honest, for me is one of the things. I don't know. Is that too bright?
It's
It's
beautiful.
it's stretchy. It's a really nice finish because you've got your rolled collar. It brings in the collar a little bit always for me as well, because sometimes you see collars that stick up, and I'm not too keen on that. But the other thing, which was a bit ambitious, I don't know whether you can see the shoulder line here. It's actually knitted in one piece from the
Uh,
arms up. And I took an idea. It's basically a mock satin sleeve made seamless, which I took as an idea from a pattern that I found on Ravelry. You can see there's all sorts of things in here. There's Latvian braid, there's Vickel braid. I don't know if you can see that one. It's a kind of a raised chain on the outside. But I'm really proud of this, and it's kept, it's stayed with me for
it's
a long
it's
time.
a work of art. That is
And I really,
beautiful.
really love wearing it. So,
Very beautiful.
and really the color. I know this is black and white, but it's the color work. I think that is my very favorite thing
There's
still.
another book that you might really like. Let me see if I can find my copy. And you may have it. Are you aware of Priscilla Gibson-Roberts?
Now, which
Okay, she has the book Knitting in the Old Way. Let me find it. And
I have a feeling
it complements what you learn from Elizabeth Zimmerman, because
yeah,
Priscilla Gibson-Roberts also uses a percentage system. But let me find the book. In her book, she talks about all the different styles, the evolution of the sweater styles. So you start with, I think she starts with a drop shoulder, and then a modified drop shoulder, and then a raglan, and then a set-in sleeve. The evolution of the sleeve. Let me find my book. Keep talking for a minute.
I wonder whether that's one of those books that's now a bit hard to find and really expensive on Amazon. I might be wrong, but I've looked for it before, I think. Um, those traditional knitting books I find really fascinating. Michael Thompson, I think, Gladys, I can't remember her surname, but there are writers on Ganses, Fair Isle, all of those things. I love the idea of working in a tradition that's knitting in the old way. I keep looking for it, I think, and I'm
Look
not
for
sure.
this, because what she does is she starts right out, and I may have gotten them in the wrong order, but and she talks about knitting in general and sweater, but it's all about sweaters, jumpers, and planning and measuring your body. So she starts out, yeah, with the standard drop shoulder.
I think this is the kind of book I think.
Yeah, and it's all percentages. So, and she talks about knitting the sleeve cuff up or the shoulder down,
Mhm.
and it doesn't really matter. And then she talks about adding gussets.
These are the really traditional techniques,
Uh-huh.
aren't they?
Yes, very, very, this is very, you would like this because you like
I think
and then the modified drop shoulder, like she calls it a jersey, shaped steak jersey. And she talks, it's just awesome. You would love it. You would absolutely
I,
love it.
my kind of book. My
Yes,
kind
it's
of
your
book.
kind of book. Yep. Okay, keep going.
So I don't know. I think I almost was building from techniques up because I was looking at techniques and thinking that makes your shoulders nicer or that makes your decreases nicer. I think you mentioned before about top down, which I'm not terribly keen on because my thing is I like decreases for
Rather
shaping.
than increases. I agree that
Um,
I think they're sturdier.
I'm going to show you this actually. I don't think the colour is going to reproduce very well, but this is a beautiful laurel green. And this is made pretty much exactly from Elizabeth Zimmerman's percentage system.
And bottom up.
Bottom up, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's made with, I don't know whether you can see.
Yes. You did a central double decrease. Is that what you did?
No, this is actually slip pearl knit and pearl two together, and it raises a pearl on either side of the raglan, which I really
very nice.
For a full-fashioned detail on a raglan. But in terms of my experiments as well, this was knit in the round to the bottom of the collar. And then I thought, another little bugbear of mine, and I know this is very much a master knitter recommendation. I don't like that little line of stockinette that goes up the side of a collar. So I was wondering how to avoid it, and I made this with short rows.
Yes.
So it's not decreased, it's short rowed all the way around until I reach the top.
Yes.
On the inside of that collar, it leaves very little ridge.
Right. And that would be, you could do that bottom up or top down. You could do the same thing. In fact, I don't know if you know one of my knitting friends, her name is Fatima, and she's from Portugal. If she's knitting top down, she casts on all the stitches for the neck first. And then she works back and forth in short rows, adding to that cast on rather than doing increases. And that's kind of what you've done from bottom up.
The other way up. I think it was probably top-down construction that gave me that idea. I also did, I don't have it because it's one of the jumpers that I've worn to death, and it's a big baggy mess now. But I also did the underarm shaping with short rows. So there was actually a continuity underneath the arm here, which turned out really nice. I'll try that again one day.
So it kind of gives you a faux gusset.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
It worked really nice. Sometimes I think, in fact, not sometimes, whenever I'm making a jumper to my own design, I think, I'm going to solve that when I get there. And more or less, usually I was solving it. I want to show you another jumper, which is another self-designed piece. Perhaps this one, which is, I think, seven natural colours of Shetland lace weight.
Wow.
Braided.
Wow.
So that's one thing. The next thing, which I think was interesting, was kind of fascinating for me. This is made bottom up, and it reminds me of Frank's work because he does top-down seamless setting sleeves. This was bottom up seamless setting sleeve, which I calculated myself. And I thought it would help me keep the real continuity without the seam of the.
That's beautiful.
Gradient. So it's almost invisible. It's made with decreases, which I really like, and there's a little bit of short rowing at the top. That's nice. And I think if anything, it's the depth here is slightly miscalculated. It could be an inch shorter, but it fits quite nicely.
That's really nice. Really, really nice.
If I did it again, I would make that shorter and just recalculate. The thing, mathematics is not my strong point at all.
But it is, because you're using math in all of this, you know? This is all math.
I spent a whole weekend looking at the calculations like a dunce, thinking this doesn't work, I don't understand it. And then in 5 minutes, the spark will come and you think, okay, I see how you do it. But I tried to understand setting sleeve construction to make this flat. And I thought, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting the geometry. I'm not getting the trigonometry or whatever it is that have to calculate it. So actually, I did my own little percentage system, and I took a few examples of setting sleeves, the bell curve, and looked at row numbers for the different parts of the curve, compared them, and made percentages. So that in future, with my little table, with some adjustments, because this one isn't perfect, I can kind of calculate a curve without calculations. I can do it in a table with percentages, and I think it works. But I need to try it another few times before I get confident with it.
Exactly. And it's just human arms, the way they come off of the body, it's such a unique thing. It's not just a thing coming straight out here,
The movement, that's the thing.
Right. And yes, there's a lot. Set-in sleeves are the most difficult. They're the most difficult. That's why initially, and you like traditions, historically, the sweaters were drop shoulder, because that was a very easy construction and it fit most people. And then the sleeves kind of evolved after that, the set-in sleeve. But yes, that's why I saved that in my series of sweater tutorials. I started with the raglan, then yoke, then drop shoulder. I saved set-in sleeves for last because it's heavy duty. That's heavy duty,
I may have found my shortcut, but I've watched. I've watched so many of your things over the last year and a half, especially, and I've learned so much, especially about measurement and about calculation. It's really, really useful, especially because, again, your work sets people free. It says you can do this yourself. You can design. You can make your own pattern. You can make something to fit yourself. And these things are really important. I've got broad shoulders and I'm short and I'm getting stouter, and I need to make things that fit me because I'm not a 6 foot slim guy who can just go and pick something off the shelf and have it look good. It's much more difficult than that. So, it's actually free and it makes something that's yourself and you can really take pride in. I think that's the thing. I just wanted to show you one last little thing here, because this is where you helped me, because look at the inside there.
Isn't that beautiful?
This is a double pickup. This is one of your double pickups onto a cable needle. So it's the same on both sides. It's got lots of nice stretch. It's kind of firm as well. But
tidy, isn't it?
So it's so neat, and it also gave me a way of hiding that little stockinette diagonal, which I don't like. So that's inside the double pickup.
Very cool.
You just need to knit a couple of rows and then knit purl the thing together, and you've enclosed it, and it's neat and nice on both sides. I wanted to do that because actually I thought this was going to be perfectly reversible, because I really like the reverse stockinette side as well. And it's not quite, but it's another idea that could come again in the future, I think. I'm sure. Possibly.
Right.
Possibly. That particular trick, one of my great loves and obsessions at the moment is Pharaoh, and this was a vest that I made last summer in Shetland Heritage from Jameson and Smith, which is between a lace weight and a jumper weight, so it's quite fine, and I found it tricky at the beginning to get tension right. It's very unforgiving, but it makes such a beautiful fabric. It's really drapey and smooth.
Yes, I like lightweight wool too, because it has such a nice drape. It does take longer to knit, but it's not like it's a race. It's something you're doing because you enjoy doing it. And to me, it's like the difference between a skinny book and a fat book. If you use lace weight yarn or fingering weight yarn, it's like a fat book. The story lasts longer. And I like it. I like the story to last longer.
If we like knitting, let's go for it, I think. And also, I think both you and I live in really hot places.
Yes.
I live in a very hot and humid place, so I don't actually have that many months where I can wear knitwear.
Yeah.
Considering how much I have, I think I need to move to the mountains.
So when you do your stranded or your color work, do you hold one needle in each hand, or both? Do you hold, both one color in each hand or both in one hand?
Both in, I use my forefinger for background color and my...
so you flip them back and forth like this?
Exactly. And also I use a Shetland knitting belt.
Oh, nice.
So I work on, this isn't color work, but I work on straight needles.
Yes.
Since March, I actually tried it because I've been watching a lot of Shetland kind of tips and how-to videos. People like Hazel Tyndall and Elizabeth Johnston, who are fantastic instructors. And they've got such a history behind them. They found efficient, fast, and quality ways to do things, and you can learn so much by watching them. And I actually thought that the knitting belt might help me with my ferrule stranded knitting to get tension correct, because you've got one long needle. It's stabilized in the knitting belt, so you can keep the distance between the stitches really nice. You can keep tension kind of loose, and as long as you're stretching out your stitches on this needle, it really helps with your ferrule tension. So that's my kind of new thing.
So where did you get your knitting belt?
This I ordered from Jameson Smith in Shetland. So it's made in Shetland. It's made of leather and horsehair. And you stabilize one needle in here, you wear it around your waist, and this needle then is perfectly stable, and you can use hands off the needle to concentrate on your tension and keep moving the stitches down.
Very cool.
It really helps. I was going to show you again. This is your little technique of that's the reverse side, and that let me see. Well, this at least, this part is a steek.
Nice.
The end of the steek is enclosed in the ribbing, so it's perfectly neat. And I did get a compliment from one of the Shetland knitters that was really.
Oh, nice.
One of my proudest moments.
Very nice.
But this is my kind of obsession at the moment. Let me see if I can find a hat. We've got the Shetland. Here we go. This is the Shetland Wool Week hat, which is going on this week, in fact, from Shetland. This is made on straight needles, knitting in the round from 3 needles. You have two needles and a third working needle. And this is with Elizabeth Johnston's hand-spun, hand-dyed fine Shetland fleece. And it's just really luxurious. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm really proud of this piece.
So when you knit in the round, that's knit in the round, right? Yeah, and did you use like double pointed needles, magic loop, 2 circulars? What did you do?
Now, this is the interesting, actually I don't have a third needle. The Shetlanders knit in the round on parallel needles.
Right.
So you knit with a third needle across this needle, then you turn it round, and your free needle then knits in parallel along here. So you kind of knit from one end and open up the triangle, and then the triangle closes down again. There's a little technique that helps you to turn the corner, because it's possible to get ladders and it's difficult to strand around the corner. But you can take the last four or so stitches off the worked needle, transfer them to the new needle,
right,
and then you'll cut around the corner already.
Right.
So really, it's a really economical way of knitting, and they're knitting around from 2 parallel needles.
Very interesting.
So that's how I made the hat. Well.
The hat is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really proud proud of it, not because of the knitting, but it feels really special to have something that was hand spun and hand dyed in a place where I've not visited the Shetland Islands, and I need to go as soon as it's possible to go. I'll go, and I hope I meet all these wonderful people, because
we should plan a trip where we can all go together.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yes. I would love to.
It would be so awesome. There's another guy that I haven't met in person that I would really like to meet. His name's Marco. And he lived in Spain for a while. When I went to when I was in Ireland, he was there briefly, but I didn't get to run into him. And one year I was going to go to Germany. He was in Berlin that year. He moves all over the place. I think he's in Japan now. But you and he remind me of each other. In that you're fearless knitters. You're fearless. You know.
Well, he moves around so much. He sounds like a wanted man. I think he's probably been nude.
Yeah. So you live in Spain right now. Why do you live in Spain right now?
I moved here in 2006 with my boyfriend, and we moved actually to the same flat. I'd previously been working in London, very happy in London, but roughly every, I don't know, every 10, 11, 12 years, I've had a bit of a life change. And that was one of them. And it just seemed like a great opportunity to live in a different culture. My master's at university was French, and I lived in France for a couple of years. So I spoke, 20, 30 years ago, I spoke fluent French. Now my French isn't so fluent. But I thought there was an opportunity to live in a different culture, learn a different language, start again. I love the Mediterranean, and it was a great thing to do. And moving out of London, it meant that I could get a dog. So that was a huge improvement to my quality of life as well. So that was a long time ago now, and I've been living and working here. I work in Spanish, my friends are Spanish, and I'm really, really happy.
Yeah.
It was a lovely thing to do.
Yes.
I lived in Scotland for a long time, which gives me a great kind of, Scotland really, I think, is the most beautiful country in the world. And I honestly think, I obviously haven't been everywhere, but I think they're the best people in the world as well, really. I don't think I've got any doubt in being able to say that. And it occupies a big place in my heart, really. So actually making the Fair Isle to me is, I feel like I'm understanding a little bit more about people's lives, women's lives really, in Shetland, because the way that people worked on these things was largely production knitting for sale, which is why they've got so many really efficient, brilliant ways to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And just learning from that is a fantastic experience, really. So
it's the history. It's learning the history and the traditions. And to me, and because I like all that stuff too, I'm not a fad knitter. Do you know what I mean? I really like the traditions. And when I'm knitting, I feel like my hands are doing the same things that all the hands before me have done.
Exactly.
You know?
And sometimes it's the tiniest movement that you can learn from somebody, and you think that's given me a more efficient, neater way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
You're learning from generations of people who've been doing it. The most amazing experts will never know as much as they do.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, talking about Fair Isle, I thought I could show you a couple of these.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Wow.
This is what I call this and this, in fact, are my Fair Isle Disaster Recovery Program projects, because both of these things started off as jumpers, and I messed up the measurements. On this one, I was getting overconfident, and I knit really, really tightly, so it turned out 2 sizes too small, and then I didn't do the shoulders very well. I was trying to run before I could walk, and these things spent, let me see, 4 or 5 years in a cupboard. It's backed. I don't know whether you can see because of the light, but it's backed.
Right.
Yeah. So they started off as jumpers, and they've been sitting in a bag for 5 years. And I saw a wonderful person on Ravelry called Andrea, who said, I think her name is Ria V on Ravelry. And I also noticed a project from Hazel Tyndall where she said that she'd made a sleeve that she didn't like, so she cut it and sewed it up as a hat and donated it to charity. And I thought,
right,
no, this is brilliant. So I took my projects out of the cupboard, I cut them up. This one was a jumper cut into strips and grafted together. Actually, in my Ravelry page, you can see the jumper that I made it from, the cuts that I made and the grafts that I made. I picked up 540 stitches across each of the sides, knitted the backing, which is perpendicular to the front, and then grafted. I knitted for both ends, and then grafted 540 stitches across, and did a kind of a sort of corrugated rib to finish it off with, a nice 3-needle bind off for the end, and it made something that was sitting in a bag into something that I'm really, really proud of.
So my friend Fatima's on here, and she said, the lady that lives in Portugal I was telling you about, she says, fantastic. Each one brings us to heaven, Trevor.
Wow, that's so nice, Fatima. Thank you. Fatima's my neighbor.
Yes. She's a neighbor to you. Yes. Look at that.
I can't wear this for very long because it's really hot and humid here, but This also was a jumper body, which I trimmed, seamed, and put the 2-color rib on either side. From a jumper body that was another disaster, because I messed up all of the shoulder shape running before I could walk. And now I've made it into something which I can really treasure. So I'm really happy with that as well.
Now, how do you decide your color scheme? And how long does it take you to decide your color scheme?
About 4 lifetimes, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I understand.
It's
But you know, when people see beautiful works of art, and those are works of art, when people see beautiful works of art like that, I don't think they understand the true significance of the amount of work that went into it to decide what colors were going to be in it and how they were going to be used.
And I've got to say that I don't understand it as well. It's trial and error. I think you have some starting ideas, and then you realize that they're not good ideas, and you have to adjust it. I mean, in terms of the colours that are available, this is Jameson of Shetland yarn. It's probably, I mean, it's 11 o'clock at night here in Spain, so it's probably not reproducing very well in artificial light, but these are greens, and it's amazing difference it can make, positively and negatively, just the tiniest shift in the intensity of the green. Initially, you want to say, I want a brilliant green, I want a brilliant yellow, I want a brilliant blue, and they'll go together and it will all be brilliant. And actually, it's not. It looks like a really horrible, tacky Christmas. It's not nice. And what you need are some dull colours, maybe some heathered colours, 1 or 2 highlight colours, and everything starts to come to life. But the balance, I don't think I'll ever learn about how to do. I don't think I would ever be able to pick them out and say that that's what will work, and that would be the greatest skill. But I don't have time enough left.
And it depends on how many stitches there are of each one, the weight. You know, how much color that represents. If it's just a little dab of color, or if it's a big block of color, it's amazing. You know, just the theory, color theory is a whole different world. It's like as big as knitting.
It is, and it's almost too intimidating to get into, you know. And I think for me, that's why I say trial and error. Look at Janine Pages, for instance, has that fantastic hint about find a photograph that really pleases you with all of the colours that you love. It might be a seascape, it could be mountains, it could be something from the city.
Right.
It could be a bit of stone, and see what pleases you about it, and see what you can, how that can inspire you. And I think that's a really good approach, because it takes all of that technical colour wheel,
right, exactly,
things away from it, which is actually quite intimidating to me.
Yeah. So do you have her book, Joy of Color?
I don't.
And my sweater's in there.
No, it is.
I know. Well, you know, with her, because now this is dyed red hair. I do dye my hair, but I'm a natural redhead. I just enhance you can see by my skin, I'm a natural redhead. And I don't think redheads look at colors the same way other people do, because the colors that appeal to other people do not appeal to me. So my color sense is completely different. And when I first started trying to do stranded knitting in Fair Isle, I had a heck of a time, because I was using a color wheel. I was using color theory. I have a whole shelf of books on color theory. And then I met Janine.
Yeah.
Then I met Janine, and she said, find a picture you like. Or just go through magazines and find several pictures. And I did. I had a whole folder when I took a private class with her. Me and 3 other ladies, we took a private 3-day class with her. It was huge gift to myself. And I took my pictures. And until she looked at them, I hadn't even realized that each picture had the same color scheme. That's what I was attracted to. And so that's what helped me pick my colors for that sweater that I made. And the beginning of that sweater was at her house. You know, just the swatching, the speed swatching part. And then once you find your colors, you have to choose motifs. And some motifs have too much of one color or not enough of, and then it changes the whole picture. And whether you should use it as a foreground color or a background color, you know, it's just huge, the choices that you have.
It is. I think you've got to find that picture tip is one of the best, I think, because it shows you an entry point and an inspiration point. I think that's really important.
Exactly.
Actually, in Shetland, the yarn company, in their Instagram for a while were showing certain pictures of landscapes or rocks or lichens, and they were putting at the side 7 of the yarn shades that they had that corresponded to the picture as kind of inspiration. And it carried on that idea, and it's a really, really nice idea as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I could mention about, in terms of colour, you know that I'm a moderator in Cecelia Campochiaro's group in Ravelry, Sequence Knitting and Marls. Genius, actually.
Yeah, it is genius. She's an amazing lady. She's totally amazing.
She's a Knitting Nobel Prize winner. She absolutely is astonishing, and her work will be inspiring people for decades and decades to come. Her 2 main books, Sequence Knitting and Making Marls, are just treasure troves of inspiration, and what do you call it? Kind of, they set you free. They give you an idea of where you can start and how you can develop your own ideas, and they give you some templates and patterns to work with, and that's been hugely inspiring to me in the last few years. So I'm really pleased to have got to meet her and to.
She's a super nice lady, isn't she? Oh, look
amazing.
at this! Look at this! Let's see.
This was the first thing that I made, and the most. I think the thing from sequence knitting that I've worn the most, and this is a very simple broken garter pattern made in Noro yarn, I think, with one solid brown colour and alternated with a variegated yarn every 2 rows.
Wow.
Broken garter pattern. Broken garter makes some of the most fabulous things.
That is really so beautiful.
And it's really, really simple as well. And this is a hat that I designed from the broken garter idea. This is a Jameson of Shetland as well. And I don't know, broken garter fascinates me. It's so simple. And Cecelia herself says that she's not inventing something. She's investigating something that was always there hiding in plain sight. And I think that's
exactly,
amazing.
exactly. And when you look, like her first book that she did, the sequence knitting, and I have both of her books. The first book, when I first glanced through it, I didn't get it. You have to stop and really look. And then I started thinking with color, oh my gosh, and then she went on to the making of the marls. And I don't know if you saw my interview with her, but she showed a lot of her yarns and her swatches, and that just changing from one, just trying and trying and trying and experimenting.
These are the things, micro swatches, to try out with, I don't know, 6 by 8 rows, 10 by 10, just to see how 2 things work together. And this for me is almost a continuation of the color conversation we were just having, that really surprising things happen. And it's just fascinating. I would spend, honestly, every waking hour of my life doing this. Because
it's like the binary system. You know? What you can do with just 2 points. You can do so much.
This is a 2-color marl in Jameson Smith Supreme lace weight. Again, I don't think, maybe further away it actually looks better.
That's beautiful. It's very rich looking.
This was actually my kind of introduction to the group, Cecilia's group in Ravelry, because they were looking for not test knitters, but kind of preview knitters for Making Marls book, and they were inviting people to knit some of the patterns so that we could have some things on Ravelry to show when the book was produced. This was coinciding perfectly with the start of lockdown, which was a very difficult period for everybody. The book's delivery in different places was delayed by the pandemic, but I don't know. This gave me something to do. So many people say the pandemic has given you so much more time to do things. I sit here all day working from home like a maniac, and I need these things after work to calm me down, to say do something manual, do something creative, do something with a product at the end of it, do something you can give to a friend, which is really important.
So that's the thing about knitting, it's like when you knit a piece like that, or any of the pieces that you've demonstrated, you get into your zone in doing that. And
Yeah,
so it's hypnotic, it's calming to your brain, it brings you peace and harmony, and then you have a finished project too.
absolutely.
You
An
know,
original project.
it's the
That's what
most amazing thing.
it is. I was going to show you something. Ah, this is what I was going. Cecilia's work, and especially there are some wonderful patterns in making masks that you just want to make. But also in that book, there are a million suggestions for how to play with color, how to arrange things, and she gives you tables which show you how to arrange 13 colors in all of their combinations. And you can then, I don't know, you can produce some astonishing things. Let me see. Now, this, for instance, is a very small tie. Um, and I think it was seven colors. Let me see if I remember this correctly. I used seven colors, two sets of seven colors, four strands at a time of cobweb and lace weight, in all of their combinations. You don't know what's going to happen next. You just follow the tables. You,
Wow.
you swap one strand at a time.
That's
Uh,
amazing. It looks like silk from here. I know it's not, but the glow of it, the way the colors go together, it makes it glow.
the thing is, these are all of the combinations are because they're repeating and they kind of blend into one another. You can't help but come up with something that is cohesive and
It's
you fo-
organic. It's
yeah
organic.
you follow the rule to the end and you get something that's really really aesthetically pleasing. And I love this thing. This
Wow.
was a reduced version of a big scarf that Cecelia made a pattern for called Pastel, which I think was possible to make in 13 or 15 colours. I think it was, two at a time. And this one was done with a few more. Let me see. One thing is it. I love Cecilia's patterns, but also Cecilia's ideas set things off in me that I just want to go and explore. And I wanted to show this cowl, which strangely enough is the same stitch pattern but adapted. That one's made in cobwebs, merinos, and Shetland cobweb. This one is made in Isaya alpaca 2, which is a 50% wool, 50% alpaca blend. This is 13 colours of uh,
Wow.
13 colours of Isaya alpaca 2.
It almost
Two,
looks like a marble or, whoops, um,
yeah,
like granite, a stone, with
it's
lichen on it. It's
it's so
beautiful.
interesting. The way that I got to this was that I was trying to make 6 or 7 colours work together, and I was getting a bit frustrated. And I thought, I've got 13 colours. I'm going to use them all and see what happens. So basically, this is two strands to hold together, swapping one strand every row. So I don't know how well it would look in detail. Is it possible to see the detail there?
That's beautiful. I
But
love
the,
that. Those are
the
my
thing is,
colors.
wow,
Yeah.
there's every colour here, and they almost shouldn't go together, but because they're all used together and they're all repeating in this pattern, it works. And to me, the texture is almost like a boucle tweed or something because
Hmm.
it's very three-dimensional. It's really soft. Too hot for my climate, which I don't know if they're your colours. Maybe I have to send it to you. But that's the kind of thing that shows what can be made with the inspirations from making marls, because that book is it's a treasure trove really of ideas for the future. Um,
Yes, exactly. It's a jumping off point.
yeah,
And that's the kind of books I like. It's the books that inspire me to think for myself and a starting point. And just like the traditional sweaters and Elizabeth Zimmerman's percentage system, it's not giving you line by line directions how to do something. It's giving you the global picture. And then people
exactly.
like Cecelia give you what you're going to fill in the global picture with, you
Yeah,
know?
these people are so admirable because they can set you free,
So are
really.
you going to do a marled jumper?
Um, let me see. Let me see. Not wanting to give away any secrets, but in a week's time, look at this fabric.
Oh, wow.
This is 7 strands of cobweb held together. Different colors. There are dark browns, light browns, blues, and
Wow.
this was a project which will be released soon by Cecelia, I think. I actually took out. This is my little. I don't know. Can you see the?
Yeah.
I wound. I wound from colour mark cones and various other things, hardwood cones, and knitted together with this. And it was the most fantastic project because I felt that I'd invented my own yarn. It's a beautiful piece. It's kind of a large vest. I don't want to say any more about it really, but it's well worth looking out for. You don't have to do all of this stuff that I did, but to me, again, is an element how her work really sets you free. The thing that I'm working on at the moment, this is the second half, but this is the first half, which is just off the blocking boards, is a marled piece. It's almost transparent, actually, you can see. But it's going to be, you can see I've got buttonholes here.
Yeah, I saw those buttonholes. I was going to ask, how's that going to go together?
Well, this is a pattern of Cecilia's called Keeley, which she makes as a long rectangle and then sews on one side to make poncho.
Right.
I've taken it and merged it with a Japanese pattern that I found called Yuki convertible poncho. And what the Yuki pattern has is buttons along one end and buttons at the other end along the side, and it can be buttoned together in one long piece as a wrap.
Right.
Or buttoned as a big loop and wrapped with buttons down the center, or however you like. And it could also be buttoned end to side as a poncho. So I'm just starting my second rectangle for this project.
So what kind of buttonholes did you put in there?
This is actually one of Catherine Lowe's buttonholes from the Rabbit Sleeve.
Uh-huh. Don't you love that book?
One day I really, really hope to meet Catherine because, again, at the very beginning, somehow, I don't know how, but that was one of the first books on knitting that I bought.
I don't know how you got, because it's really obscure. I love Catherine. I love Catherine.
I have a feeling that I read somewhere that this is an obscure book and it has many interesting things in it. And I just thought I have to have that book. That's going to solve all of my problems are in that book.
Yes.
But I think, again, she's a genius and she's a beautiful writer. And she makes a really nice buttonhole.
Yes, exactly.
It's a 3-row yarn over buttonhole, which I think she said that she had adapted from Jane Hammond to Hyatt's book, Principle of Knitting. But it's worked very nice, and I think I've more or less got them in the right place.
Yeah, she's one of my favorites. Here's her book right here.
This is the thing. It's open on my table.
The raveled sleeve. And for those of you who know that I talk about blocking all the time, her blocking, the pages that are talk about blocking in this book go from, let me find the table of contents. Blocking starts around page 25, and she talks about it through page 87.
Yeah.
Blocking.
Yeah, there's some useful stuff about gauging there.
And she makes swatches before she blocks. So pre-blocking swatches that she blocks, and then she makes the bigger swatches and blocks. But very cool.
Love to meet her. But again, we rely on these people a lot. I've relied on you. I've relied on so many instructors and so many people's patterns, and this pool of knowledge it's an incredible thing. I'm very much from a generation of kind of library book learners. If you need to know something, you go to the library. Pre-Google. So that's kind of, I've got a small knitting library there of things that I really appreciate just looking through and seeing if there are ideas, not so much for patterns, but things which might be solutions or things that you can incorporate into
it's more like knitting philosophy.
Yeah.
Knitting philosophy. I think Elizabeth Zimmerman, Priscilla Gibson-Roberts, Catherine Lowe, Cecelia, it's about knitting philosophy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you sort of get it, and then you can do with it what you want, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm that way too. I'm not a line by line pattern person. I can do that, but it does not bring me joy. It brings me joy to sit down with a pencil and a piece of paper and figure out my own plans and then execute it. Exactly. And then execute my plan. And sometimes it works out. Most of the time it works out, but sometimes it doesn't, as your long scarves show. Sometimes it doesn't work out. And when you put that much work into it, it's still a work of art. It may not be a jumper, but it's still a work of art. You know.
I think I love this philosophy as well of not wasting things, because these pieces stayed in a bag for so long, and I'm so pleased that I didn't waste them. And cutting, knitting, there's nothing to be afraid of. A bit of grafting, there's nothing to be afraid of. Knitting on in different directions, and there's nothing to be afraid of. And practice some things that you feel are disasters, because these things now are going to be some of my favorite things. I'm going to have to move somewhere good enough to wear them, but
I know. And you love them, when you see it and feel it and touch it, it brings you joy. It brings you joy.
Yeah. Completely. Yeah.
Well, we have almost finished our hour, and it has just zoomed by like that. It's just zoomed by. But I have enjoyed having you on here so much, Trevster. This has been so fun, and seeing your work and your enthusiasm and learning that you're a traditional knitter. I love it.
I'm a disaster.
Yeah.
I really have to go into my disasters.
Yeah.
Suzanne, it's been such a pleasure. I still can't quite believe that you asked me, but I'm so pleased that you did. I really am.
I'm sure everybody else is glad I asked you too.
No,
It's been wonderful. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye to everybody. Now, next week I have another guest. It's going to be Joan Schrouder. She goes by Schrouder Knits on Ravelry, and she's another Ravelry person. You're not going to see her on Facebook much. She's mostly on Ravelry, so watch for her next. And Trevster, this has been a real joy. Made my day.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Next year in Shetland, I think.
Yes, let's do that. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye.